Hello, this is Dr. Stanley Lang, and welcome to this presentation. I have a question for you. What would you do if you were feeling very sick and you could not access any kind of medical help to help you recover or get better? Who would you turn to, and what would you do internally? Recently, I saw a patient who was in that situation, and for some time she'd been unable to access any kind of uh, health care. And so she was in pretty bad shape when I did finally see her. And much of the reason that she couldn't access health care was of her own doing. But she had literally not been taking care of herself for a long time. And what I discovered was that she had been not surprisingly, had been deeply wounded in the past. She had some belief in God, but didn't have an active faith life. And so I agreed to try to help her through this time and explored the possibility of whether or not she had enough belief in God where that could be a spiritual resource for her. The more we talked, she started to open up, and it was clear that she was willing to explore that part of her life, to open that part of her life, if that meant that she could get better. And I was convinced that it would play a big difference because of the problems that she was dealing with. And she had a lot of other physical issues, and so we set in motion some strategies to treat some of those physical issues. But she also agreed to let me pray with her, and she was open to the idea of a Christian worldview. That had been her background. So we actually prayed in the name of Jesus, and she was more peaceful when she left. And I saw her back a week later, and she was a transformed person in terms of how she looked. Some of the physical issues were starting to improve because of the medical interventions, but the peace on her face is what was the big difference. And at that point, we talked more about how to grow in the experience of God, that it was crucial to be able to grow in the experience of forgiveness. And one of the assignments I'd given her in the previous week was to work on forgiving people, and she reported back that that was hard to do a week later. And so we talked about that it was literally impossible to do very well unless you had experienced forgiveness from God. And that's one of the things I really focused on in terms of this idea of growing in relationship with Jesus as a way of growing in health. So that became the focus of the prayer of that day. And what I wanted to share with you is the experience that it was opening up, cracking open the spiritual resources that were already present in her life, but relatively untouched, that really caused her to turn a corner and gain hope and commitment to get better physically. Even though I did several physical interventions, that wouldn't have been enough because other people had done those before too, and she had, in a sense, failed. So the concept that this is really describing is pictured with this simple diagram, the intersection of body, mind, and spirit, and an approach where I am trying to integrate health of body, mind, and spirit. I call a whole person health approach. And that, I think, is an approach that all of us can benefit from. And the more that we pursue health in body, mind, and spirit, the more healthy we're going to be. So my encouragement to you is that you spend a few moments and sort of unpack what are my personal options in terms of growing more in spiritual health, and how can that affect my physical and my emotional health. The chances are that if you're like me, you're not doing as much as you could to be more healthy spiritually, and that can have a powerful effect on your physical and your emotional health. So I encourage you to explore that tonight or whenever you're viewing this video, and to take advantage of this resource that God has placed inside of you. So this is an example again of how whole person health gives the best response rather than just focusing on the physical things. I could have just addressed the physical issues with this patient, and she might have felt a little bit better the next week. She wouldn't have had the peace that she had, and she wouldn't have had the sense of hope for the future that she now has. So I encourage you to explore how God has in store for you better ways to experience your future. And also encourage you to subscribe to this channel to get more updates on these types of messages. I wish you well. God bless and have a great day.